Good morning. This is Scott Quimby from Computer Systems Integrators. We're going to talk about Microsoft Group Policy Desktop Delivery Strategies for the next 45 minutes or so. If you have questions, Lisa will try to keep me honest. You can type them in the chat box. And also, Lisa can give you the PDFs for this. So, let's get going. Basically, we put out desktops, and we want to get people to get to the programs on the workstation, programs on the server, shortcuts to internet resources in a consistent manner. And so what we want to do is we need to somehow give them a desktop. Now, at the beginning, you have the desktop on the machine. We're presuming Windows 7 or higher, and the all users desktop is in C:users public desktop. Now, the desktop may be hidden, but just if you type it, it is really there. And you can see in the little screen I have a couple shortcuts there. Those shortcuts will go to all users. So user Scott, user Larry, user Lisa sign on to the machine. They'll just get those shortcuts. The all users start menu is in a bizarre place. Don't understand why Microsoft did this, but it's in C:program data Microsoft Windows start menu. And if you go start programs, right-click on that, on all programs, you'll see it open to all user programs to this location, and you can see the start menu. So as you're building your golden images, you can always put stuff there, and it'll appear for all users. What you can do is you can build on that. The other place that is the user itself is in %user-profile %desktop. And so if you type that on your machine right now, you're going to get something like this. In my machine, it'll be C:user Scott desktop. So that is the individual user's desktop. Now remember, the all users desktop and the individual user's desktop gets combined. So if I want to put something just for Scott, I put it here. If I want to put something for everyone, I put it in the other place. And if you're doing roaming profiles or the like, this may point to a server location. So just realize that fact. Okay, let's keep going. So how do we deliver this from the server, though? We put out all these machines, and you've just subscribed to a new web resource, and you want to get it out to all the users, or the teachers have a new grade thing, and you want to get it out. How do we do this? So I'm going to talk about a couple different strategies here. First, we're going to go into Control Panel, Administrative Tools, and we're going to click on Group Policy Management. And that's going to pull us up to this here. And where we're going to be working in terms of folder redirection is under User Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Folder Redirection. One of the strategies is the desktop folder in the desktop start menu is a folder, and we could just point to a shared folder location. People have been doing that for years. And the benefit of that is I dump one shortcut in one location, and it just automatically is delivered. The all users shortcuts on each individual machine do blend with the shared desktop folder short menu. So that's going on. So if we go into folder redirection, again, Windows 7 or higher perspective, here's all the folders that I can technically redirect. I can redirect app data, which is where a lot of the roaming stuff is. I can redirect desktop, start menu, documents, pictures, get really granular. I don't have to redirect all this stuff, so some of this stuff will just follow the user. But, you know, for instance, if I say, hey, you know, music's out of control and videos are out of control, I can redirect them maybe to cheaper storage like a NAS or something that I'm not going to get as obsessed about in terms of replication and recoverability, that just, you know, cheap disk that's big, that will hopefully stay alive. You know, so I could be granular and pick some of these things off and put them in another location. Let's kind of pick this apart now. App data. Now, a lot of good stuff is under app data. As I said, roaming profiles, what, you know, gives you a lot of the personality stuff is under app data. However, app data in terms of folder redirection is kind of scary, because if you get into situations where a person is signed on more than once, they're kind of co-mingling this folder, and bad things can happen and corruption can happen. So generally, I don't like, and a lot of people don't like, to redirect app data if we can't. Well, I just don't like to do it because lots of times you sign on more than once. I'm signed on more than once right now on different things, and if we're sharing app data, then all those things would commingle and bad things would probably happen at some point. Desktop, that's what we're talking about here. Desktop can be shared, and we're going to go through that. Realize, though, that a shared desktop can add, you know, upwards of a minute to login performance. All right, so you can add an extra minute to get the desktop. That's assuming you don't do bad things on the desktop, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Start menu, same thing. You can redirect it, which we're going to show you, but there are performance costs to do that. Documents is fine to do, so I could redirect the documents folder to my home directory. I like to redirect favorites. This is for IE only, so like, you know, to your home directory /favorites. Could do that. You could do other ones. Again, downloads might be big if you're a tech person, and you know, there's a performance cost for that. So generally, you know, these desktop start menu, if you're going to do shared desktops, that's what you're going to do. Documents, probably all of you are doing perhaps favorites, and if you're not doing favorites, it's easy enough to do. So let's look at this in a little more detail. So here we are, and we're looking at a policy for shared desktop. And we go to desktops, right-click properties, and we're going to go for the basic desktop, which is everyone's folder to the same location. And then we pick a location. And so I created a hidden share called student desktop on this server, and everyone under the student's policy is going to redirect their desktop from their local desktop to this location. And I made it hidden just so people can't mess with me as easy. I could, as a variation of this, I could go and take one policy and then pick off groups and redirect different groups to different places, right, for a folder redirect, right? So I could say just in one policy, well, students go to student desktop, teachers go to teacher, admins go to admin. I could do that. I generally am kind of more discreet in that, but that's there. And if you're going to do groups, you can go out and search your groups on your own. It's literally that simple. If we move on to Start Menu, it's exactly the same thing. I created a hidden share called Student Start Menu, and I put everything in that and follow the same rules. Pretty straightforward. So now I go out to the server in question, and I find my desktop shares. There's student desktop there. And I go into that share. And the thing about the share is, all right, the $ makes it hidden. You didn't have to do that. I just do it just to avoid nuisance wandering. On the share permissions, I make the students read, right? They can just see whatever I dump in there. They can't edit it and the like. And then for the tech folks, I make them read, write. So students minimally, or the users you're giving this to, you minimally need read. On the NTFS shares, the same thing. I go to students and I make them read. And on the tech folks, I just make them full. So that the tech folks can edit it. So in this case, you know, the techs can dump a shortcut into this folder, and then it will just automatically appear instantly on everyone's desktop. So that's kind of cool. There's no relogin. There's none of that. If I dump OPAC in here, it's just there. If I edit Destiny, it's just there. Now the problem with this scenario is that if you don't have, I have no logic to test whether you have the software or not. So if you don't have this software, what's going to happen is you're going to have a dead shortcut. It's going to go nowhere. All right. So you get into, well, we have some Office 2007, some 2010, some 2013, some 2016. We haven't really gotten around to, you know, getting everybody consistent because it takes a long time. The French people have French software. The special ed people have special ed software. So you get into scenarios where there's going to be dead icons. Generally, the best solution in this one-size-fits-all scenario is you create folders, room 12 French, and you put the room 12 French shortcuts in there. So they'll be dead if you're not in room 12, but, you know, they won't be just dead on the desktop. So that's kind of how to do it. Or Office 2013 folder, Office 2010 folder, you know, just teach people to pick the one that is lit up. The other thing you really need to know to not screw this up, you know, I already said that the cost you're going to get to implement this is probably a minute or so in terms of increasing your logon time. But you notice how each one of these things is a shortcut. You see the broken arrow shortcuts here? This is a folder. If we open this up, there's shortcuts in there. What you absolutely don't want to do is you don't want to paste zip files, PDF files, exe files, any of that, because literally what's going to happen is those files are going to come down to the user, and it's going to just be horrific performance. So if you're doing this now, just go through and audit all these and make sure they're all shortcuts, and put the stuff someplace else in the app share or whatever, but just make sure you didn't, when you pasted something here, that you didn't paste it as the exe, or paste the actual PDF book, or paste a zip file, because it's just going to decimate you for performance. And again, that's one reason why we want to keep this as read-only for the end users, so that they can't mess up. And if they try to save to their desktop, it'll tell them they can't, and just tell them save in your home directory or your common folders or whatever your convention is. But that's a big deal in terms of performance. All right, so the start menu, it works the same way. You create that folder, you just copy the start menu you like in, put the shortcuts in. The same caveats apply to don't put exes, don't put zip files, don't put PDFs. Make sure it's all shortcuts so you don't mess up. The startup folder is going to combine with the local startup folder. So remember in our first set of slides where we had the local start menu, and there's a startup folder under that, off the machine, all users. Well, whatever's in this will combine with whatever's in that to launch, so you can control it from here. And when you view this on a workstation, it's going to view as everything, both what's coming from the network and whatever's running locally. So realize that. All right, now everything I showed you works fine. It's slow, and it's one size fits all. And users get upset about 2-minute login times or what have you, and so we got to really come up with a better way. The other thing is, it doesn't lend itself, those dead icon scenarios, it doesn't lend itself that the French class has French stuff and the special ed people have special ed stuff, and the teachers get school tool where the students don't get school tool, and the teachers get webmail and the students don't get webmail, or they get Google Apps versus Exchange for mail, or on and on. Or I have 32-bit images with 32-bit apps, and I have 64-bit apps and the like. So the solution to this is something called GPPE shortcuts, Group Policy Preference Extension shortcuts. It's the better way. It allows us to mass customize shortcut delivery. So instead of like sucking this one shared folder in, I can basically plop on either the user's desktop, see users Scott desktop, or the all users desktop, see users public desktop. I can put the shortcuts that I desire you to have based on the machine, based on what you do, based on who you are, what group you're in, on the actual machine. And if the software doesn't exist, I can test for that, and I cannot deliver it, so you won't have dead icons. So I can mass customize. So it's quite a beautiful, elegant thing. Not only can I mass customize, I can get rid of that horrific performance hit of shared desktops and shared start menus, because essentially this is just gonna kind of happen by magic. So let's pick this out. So the way we get into this is, again, out of Group Policy Management console. We go under Users, we go under Preferences, and you see all these cool things we can do. Drive maps, which is a cool thing to talk about separately. Registry keys we need to push in to a machine. That's a separate topic. Well, today we're going to talk about shortcuts. So I go into Shortcut, and notice here, this is Tri-Valley. So hi, Tri-Valley, I think you're on the call. I swiped your screenshot. Here's Firefox 32-bit. Is a shortcut that we're going to deliver. So let's pick this apart here. All right, when we go in, this is new shortcut, and we look. I'm going to pick apart these fields so we can look at it. The first field is action, and it's update, create, replace, or delete. Create will add the object but do nothing if it already exists. So if you don't have Firefox on your desktop, I'm going to create it. But if you already do have this shortcut, I won't do anything. Update will create one if it doesn't exist, or update it if it already is there. So it'll just essentially overwrite, say, this is what I want you to have, just do it. Replace will either create or update, will either create or replace regardless of what's there. So replace just says, this is what I want, just do it. I generally do replace for most of this, and there are some things like with drive mappings where when you try to do something other than replace, it'll come up and tell you you should do replace. So I generally do replace, but that's the logic. Delete deletes. So then we go down to what am I trying to deliver, and I have three choices: a file system object, a URL, or a shell object. And basically, whoops, where's my definition page?
someplace I have it that, oh, sorry, it's out of order. My bad. I should push that up in the slide deck. All right, so here's the shortcut types. A file system object is a shortcut to a file, folder, drive, share, or computer. So Firefox exe is a file system object. A shell object is a shortcut to a printer, a desktop item, or control panel item. So if I want to put the control panel on the desktop, it's a shell item. If I'm making a shortcut for an application, it's a file system object. URL is a web page. School tool, URL. So that's the logic here. Sorry that I had to bounce back. All right, so that's the logic here. So what are we trying to do? In this case, we're trying to do a file system object. We're doing school tool, right? I'm sorry, doing Firefox. Then, and this is quite beautiful here, where do we want to put it? Do I want to put it on Scott's desktop, the individual user's desktop? Do I want to put it on Scott's start menu? Do I want to put it on the program submenu? Do I want to put it in the startup folder? Do I want to put it in favorites? Do I want to put something in send to or recent? The quick bar, my network places, or do I want to just plop it into all users desktop, all users start menu, all users program, all users startup, or do I want to populate Internet Explorer favorites with the subscription that we just got? Pick what you want. Do you want it just to go to the teacher? School tools should go to the teacher. The student shouldn't see that, so I'd put it in desktop. The new Google Apps, Google Classroom would probably go all users desktop, so everyone could see it. So pick your thing here. Now let's go back to Lori's exe here. So the name of the program is Firefox 32. Just make up a name. It's a file system object. We want to put it on the individual user's desktop. We point to where the program is on the machine. It's in C: Program Files, Mozilla Firefox, Firefox exe. We want it to start in Firefox exe. If there's other stuff to type, we could certainly put parameters in. And then the question is, where do we get the icon? We'd like the little Mozilla globe thing. So I point to the Firefox exe, and that's how I'm going to get the icon. Now, if you have something that you created, like Arlington Schools had a bunch of homebrew software that they created, if you click on the ... here, you're going to get a list of kind of default icons you can pick. So if you don't have an icon for something, you can give it an icon so it's not dead out of the generic stuff. But generally just point to the icon for the application and the like. Now we get to where the magic happens in GPPE for everything. The Common tab, this, and the Item Level Targeting tab. This is where stuff gets really cool. You have a choice. Do I want to stop processing this stuff if it blows up, right? If something's totally screwed up, do I want to stop? Big question here. Do I want this, whatever this is, the Firefox 32-bit, do I want it to run in the logged in user's security context, i.e. the user policy? So do I wish this to be running as administrator under the covers, or do I wish this to be running as Scott, because Scott signed into this machine? For most things we're doing in terms of delivery and the like, we're going to run as the logged in user. When we get into drive mappings, which isn't part of the discussion today, that's a really big deal, because, you know, if I'm mapping your home directory, I want it to map as Scott, because Scott signed on, Larry signed on, Lisa signed on. I want it to map as them. I don't want it to map as administrator, because Scott doesn't have rights to administrator, and then the mapping will fail. All right. The next one is rather huge too. Do I want to remove it when this is no longer applied? All right. So I put out the School Tool app or the subscription web app. If I don't do School Tool anymore, we do eSchool data instead, or Infinite Classroom or one of the other things, Power School, do I want to just have it automatically be removed from the users when the machine, when I've decided that this policy is no longer relevant? And if this is checked, it knows how to undo it. So when Firefox 32-bit is dead, you just remove the policy and it just automatically removes from all the machines. All right, as opposed to plop it out there and we're done here, right? And that's in Microsoft speak, the term they use is tattooing. Tattooing is I've marked it and it's not coming back, right? I mean, I could write something to delete it or whatever, so there are ways to get it back, but it's not going to automatically come back. That's tattooing. Just drop it there and then leave it there. Whereas remove says, if I decide I don't want to do this anymore, pull it off. I generally do remove because, you know, it's forgiveness. We don't do Firefox anymore because the software got weird. We don't do 32-bit anymore. I don't want the icon on the desktop. Just make it go away. So I normally do that. The next one is apply once and do not reapply. Because I said remove, I can't do that. Apply once and don't reapply. Hi, I just want to dump something in the all users desktop on everybody's machine. Here's the link to Google Apps. Bam. Do it once, quit thinking about it. That's what that is. Apply once and do not reapply, and remove when no longer applied are mutually exclusive. So choose one or the other. Again, I like to be able to undo things. Item level targeting. This is really, really nice. That's my slide out of place. I'll fix that in the slide deck. All right, so here's item level targeting, and basically what we can do is we can do conditional logic. Now in the middle here, you see all the things we can search for. So I could search for, is a battery present? Is this a laptop? If it's a laptop, I want to do something to it. I can search for a specific computer name. If this is the business manager's computer, do you know, put this on. I can search for a variable that I put in on the machine. So if I could say, you know, set security equals no, and I could test for that. File match, which we're going to do. I want to put Firefox 32-bit shortcut on a machine that actually has Firefox 32-bit. Otherwise, I'm going to get a dead icon or an error, right? This is cool. IP address range. Depending on what VLAN you're in, I can put shortcuts, different shortcuts for different VLANs. That might be interesting for printers. Go back to that shell object to put a printer on a desktop. If you're in this VLAN, you know, here's the big shared printer that I'm going to put out there. MAC address, MSI input, MSI, you know, do you have that? Operating system, you know, if this is Windows 10, I want to do this to you. But if it's not Windows 10, I don't want to do it. OU, they say don't really do OU even though it's here. RAM, a registry key, if it's present, do something. Security group, if you're a member of teachers, then put School Tool on the screen. If you're Scott, do something specific. Query for something in the machine. So we can test for that. And then we can combine that. So I can say, well, here it's like if you're a member of text, put Firefox on the desktop. And then I could do file match. And then the right column here, I have and, or, is not. So I can put your user of text and the 32-bit Firefox is in exe is in the folder. That would be the test. Or your member text and you're not on a machine that's Windows 10. Do this. So remember when you put these things in to combine, that you can combine the logic. File match I like a lot to keep errors down and put things precisely where they is, and whether it's an or is or is not. So pretty powerful stuff. So here's my example. Member of text and the file exists, and then I go and I point to where the file exists. C:\program files / Mozilla Firefox / Firefox exe. So if your text and the file exists, then put this down. Remember to go and if you're searching for a group like text, do not type the group name in the box, right? Just don't do it. That is bad. Let me see if I had that screen. Yeah, you see this screen here. It has a name of a group. Even though that group is a simple name, even though you know what it is, do not type the name of the group, right? Notice the group has a SID number. The SID is the Microsoft gobbledygook number that represents the group. If you just type this, there's no SID number and it won't work. So you always want to click ... and you always want to pick the group out normally. All right. Now, here you get into 32-bit versus 64-bit. Well, 64-bit is going to be in C:\program files, parens, x86, parens, blah, blah, blah. So we've created a different shortcut that goes to 64-bit, right? And again, I would then test for the 64-bit location here for the exe in a file match. So if you're tech and the 64-bit program exists, then put it on. That way I'm always getting what you want. You know, if you're in the French machine and the French software exists, put the shortcut on. So I can mass customize like crazy. All right. So that's the way to do it. If you're not doing that, if you're doing shared desktops, shared start menus, I really want you to lose shared desktops and shared start menus. You know, if you're happy and the performance doesn't bother you, fine. You know, they work fine. There's nothing bad about them other than performance. So if the performance doesn't bother you, fine. But we can do so much more with GPP, so much more mass customizing, make the machines for different teachers look different, give teachers stuff. You know, I had one district a year ago, oh, we got to get this shortcut out to everybody today because the address changed. Everybody needs this shortcut today. Well, GPP, that's the way, you know, that's the way to do it. The other thing, if you want to be real lazy, is you could do a GPPE shortcut to a shared Windows folder and just dump shortcuts into that. You would not get the performance hit of a shared desktop. So if I just did on your desktop a GPPE shortcut that went to whack server name whack you know, program shortcuts, and I just dumped shortcuts in that wouldn't do a performance hit because it wouldn't be bringing the desktop down. So that's another way if you're really lazy about it. All right, let's finish this up now with a little bit of Windows 10. All the GPPE stuff we can do with Windows 10 just fine. So we want to put shortcuts on the Windows 10 desktops. We can do that just fine. Just do it, and you can test for Windows 10 if you want different things. Remember, though, I said this in SysUp meetings and Tech Talk for those that were able to attend with all the snow. Windows 10, for group policy stuff, you really need to manage from a Windows 10 workstation with the Microsoft RSAT tools installed, or you need to manage from a Windows Server 2016, which has Group Policy Management Console installed. So if you're managing your Windows 10 group policies from Server 2012 R2 or 2008 R2 or Windows 7, you're going to reach a certain point where stuff is going to blow up on you, like .NET errors, for instance, and item level targeting. And it'll work flawlessly on a Windows 10 machine with RSAT or a Windows Server 2016. So just realize that as we venture into the Windows 10 world as to how we need to do this. All right, so we want to do the shortcuts. I said Windows 10 are going to work the same, no problem. We want to do this start layout and basically go through, pick a machine, pin and unpin to suit your needs, right? Right-click pin, right-click unpin, get it however you wish it to be. Then go into PowerShell on a machine that you like and type this command and just give it a place to put it. I said C:*start XML, but just give it some sort of place that you're going to export the configuration. This is actually that, right, in terms of the instructions for that. So you're going to go into PowerShell after you get your menu the way you want it to be, or layout, whatever they call it, and you're going to export it to an XML. Once you do that, in group policy configuration, assuming you have Windows 10 ADM file, ADMX files in your central policy store, or you're managing off a Windows 10 machine, that's a separate topic we can talk about, but you do need to do that to do Windows 10, just like you had to do that for the other OSs. We can help you with that offline. You can either go to User Configuration, Administrative Template, Start Menu, and Taskbar, Start Screen Layout, or Computer Configuration, Administrative Template, Start Menu, Taskbar, Screen Layout. It's available in two different places. Remember, User tends to be dynamic, Computer is more static. Generally, I do stuff in User if there's going to be variation. If it's one size fits all, it's probably under Computer. So anyway, we go to that location. You see it here, Start Layout. And now what we do is we copy that Start XML to a share someplace. Again, think of like the same rules as we had for those shared student desktops. I have a Windows share. I made it hidden, start $. I put the file in there. I'd make this read-only for the share so that the people can pick it up and not mess with it. So I enable the start layout. I give it the location and say OK. And that's how you do a Windows 10 start layout. Roaming profiles in Windows 10 isn't very exciting, blows up depending on what version you have. So you probably don't want to be doing that. So you probably want to stick to what I have done. So those are the base material that I had for you today. If you have questions, like, we can open it up in a second. Couple things. We just had awful luck in the month of January trying to get Tech Talk meetings, SysHub meetings in, depending on where you're coming from. And a lot of people, we had to move the meeting because of snow, and then it snowed the day we moved the meeting. People had to leave. People had to cancel. It was just a train wreck. So what I did for those that either couldn't attend, or because of the limitation of scheduling, some of your peers in your district could not attend, I've recorded 3 of the presentations, the Tech Tidbits, the Windows 10, and Introduction to Microsoft App Locker. And so if you didn't get to attend and you would like to watch those presentations and get the handouts, contact Lisa and she can get you hooked up with those things. In the meantime, you can look online, see what we got going on, our blog and the like. Future dates coming up in March, March 14th, a month from today. Things I know I'm doing, this isn't an absolute list, but kind of I think what's going to happen. Windows 10 update, we're getting close to the Creators update, Creatives update. Tech Tidbits, Active Directory Administration Center, pretty cool piece of software most people don't know exists in Windows Server 2012 and the like. Bob will do his network access update, not sure if what else in that space he'll do. Troubleshooting tips, we never got to it in the January meetings, so I'm going to do that. Good topic came up from Hyde Park. I'm going to do one on how do I retire a guest server and reclaim all those resources, the disk, the VM stuff, SAN and the like. Not sure if I'll get to it in this meeting, securing Active Directory. So that's kind of a working list of what I think the next meeting is going to be about. Talk to Lisa if you would like to attend. Next webinar we're going to do is on Tuesday, April 4th. And I'm going to do a logon performance discussion in terms of what affects logon performance, how to improve logon performance. Not sure what we're doing in June yet. A couple other things we're doing is webinar on our Paladin Sentinel monitoring. If you haven't subscribed to that or seen that, you can contact Lisa. And Lisa and Prayer and I were talking about seeing if we can get the Microsoft licensing guy for education to actually explain Microsoft licensing. We won't be serving alcohol, but you probably need for that. I don't know if that can happen yet, but that's kind of in my brain as something we're going to try because a lot of people are asking questions. If you haven't been able to see the other webinars we've been doing, they're all recorded at this address. This webinar is being recorded, and it'll go up probably later today or tomorrow. So with that, I am going to